Hi everyone, and welcome to my next video tutorial, which is going to focus on integrating various databases within a Django application. So I'll be teaching you how to integrate a Postgres database, an SQLite database, and also a MySQL database. Now, of course, some of you will be familiar with some of those databases, so you're more than welcome to skip ahead to the relevant chapter. Okay, so I'm going to start off from the beginning here. So I'm just going to create a normal project here. So I'm just going to first of all create a folder called dev. I'm going to head on over to that directory. So it's at cd desktop and it is in dev. So I'm within this directory here. So I actually can clear this up. And what I want to do first of all is to ensure that I have the package available for setting up virtual environments. So I'm going to say pip install virtual env. So this package is fine to install globally on your system. You kind of have to do it or else you won't be able to create a virtual environment. So that's fine. And now we can create a virtual environment in our directory here. So I'm going to say virtual env. VNV would be the name of my virtual environment. So let's give that a moment. There we go. It's been created. Now let's activate it. So I'm going to say venv /scripts /activate. There we go. It's activated. We can see the name of our virtual environment here in parentheses. Let's clear that up and we're good to go. Now within this virtual environment, we want to install Django. So we can say pip install Django. Okay, let's just give it a moment. Okay. So it does take a moment to install Django. So what I'm going to do is just pause the video until it's done and then we can carry on. All right, so as we can see, Django was installed. So we can clear this up and you can type in pip list, which is a useful command to just double check all the packages in your virtual environment. So we can see Django and also the sub packages that were installed with Django itself. Great, so that's perfectly fine. Now that we have Django installed in our dev directory, we want to say Django-admin start project and give your project a name. I'm just going to call mine elevate. So give your project its own name. Perfect. Now we're not going to use this CMD anymore, so we're just going to close this up. And I'm going to be using the Visual Studio Code as my code editor. Okay, it should automatically open up that dev directory for you here, but if not, you can just go to File, Open Folder, and go to Desktop and open up that directory and say Select Folder. Now you can close this notification here if you get any. And we can see we're in that directory. So we can see we have our Django project elevate here and settings.py, manage.py, all of our basic files that come with a Django project. And we also have our virtual environment folder here as well. Okay, perfect. Now, what we need to do is we need to configure our Python interpreter. So by default, it might not be set up for you, but not to worry, I'll show you how to do that. So first you want to go to your directory here. Now the reason that we're doing this is because sometimes some packages need to be routed correctly in VS Code. Sometimes they don't get routed correctly for some reason if you don't configure the Python interpreter. So you want to click in your virtual environment folder and you want to go ahead and copy that root address here, the URL. And you can head on over to VS Code and I want you to press Control Shift and P. So again, Control, Shift, and P, and you want to look for this interpreter here. So Python select interpreter, and you want to say enter interpreter path, and you want to paste in that interpreter path from your virtual environment folder and enter that in. Okay, great. So we've got that set. Now, what we can do is toggle the panel here to bring up the Visual Studio Code's terminal. And that will bring that up right here and it should automatically activate the virtual environment. There we go, it's been activated and we can clear this up. Now what you may want to do now is head into your project folder, your Django project. So you can say cd elevate in my case. Okay, I'm within that folder and I can clear it out. Now by default, okay, what's going to happen is we are going to configure SQLite with Django. So it's really easy to integrate. All you need to do is literally run python manage.py run server, and then it's automatically going to generate a SQLite database for you. And there it is. So there's an SQLite database for you, all set and ready to go. And you can also check this out if you head on over to your settings.py file. If you scroll down, you can see databases here. So our default database is an SQLite database. Now what we can do is just add in a comment here, and I'm just going to say SQLite database. Okay, and while we're at it, I just want to stop the server here, and we can add in some space here if we close this Explorer window for our Postgres database. And MySQL database. So we have a few options here. So we're going to set up the rest as well. But that's how you can configure your SQLite database. I'm going to show you more because there's a bit more to it. Next thing that we want to do is we want to just run the server again, and let's just check if our application is actually running. So just give it a moment. Okay, so it's running and we can just access it at localhost. So you may just want to put localhost in here, and there we have it. So our application is running. However, you may have noticed, if you scroll up here, it has this red writing here. Now it says here you have 18 unapplied migrations here. Okay, so by default, whenever you create a Django application, it's going to have pre-installed apps here already that pertain to the admin functionality, the authentication functionality, sessions, messages, static files, etc. This is all built in with Django. So what you're going to have to do is apply these migrations. Now, this is a very good sign to tell that you're connected to some sort of database. So any database that you recently configure, okay, you will see this message come up. Okay, so it's very important to recognize this. So what we need to do now is migrate all the files to, all these database files from the apps here to our database, which is currently, okay, if we scroll up here, which is currently within our SQLite database. So we're going to migrate all those apps database files to this database that we're currently connected to the SQLite database. So to do that, you can just say python manage.py and you can just say migrate. That's all you have to do. And there we go, it's migrated everything and we're good to go. So if we were to then create a super user, we would be able to do so. So we can create a super user, and I'm just going to say Arno-SQLite. Email I'm going to skip, I'm going to enter in a password. And again, and this is a good test to see if we have connected that database correctly. So now if I run my server, okay, let's give it a moment. There we go, it's running. We can go to our admin page and you can just enter in your credentials. So I had Arno-SQLite. Okay, so I'm now connected to my SQLite database here. So any records that I set up and manage, it will be based on my SQLite database. Okay, so that is how you can set up your SQLite database accordingly. Now, the next two things we're going to learn are how to set up a Postgres database and a MySQLite database. And I'm going to show you how you can do this for free. And the service to use for this would be Railway. Okay, now, if you want your database to last for a longer time, you can create an account, sign up, and do all of that jazz there. If you just want to do some testing, you don't even need an account. You can just go ahead and start a project and create your database. But before we do this, we need to install a few packages. So the first package I want to install is this DJ database URL package. So what I'm going to do is install this, and this is going to basically parse a database URL for us. So basically we don't need to add in this structure every time for our databases. We don't literally need to type in default engine name, database name, port, password, username. That's a bit tedious. It's better to rather use this DJ database URL to parse the URL that we get from our database, okay, and automatically add in all of this data, all these key value pairs in terms of name, the database name, the port, username, password, all for us, because this takes quite a lot of time. So what we can do is copy this, head on over to our terminal, stop your server, and you want to install DJ database URL. Okay, there we go, it's been installed. Now to verify, you can type in pip list, and this will just double check your packages. And if we scroll up, we should see DJ database URL right there. Okay, right here. So that's good. Next thing that we need to do is we need to install another package here, which is psycopg2 binary. So this is a Python Postgres database adapter. Since we are making use of a Postgres database, we need to install this. So what you can do is install that as well, and install that in your virtual environment. Of course, you can type pip list after just to check. There we go. Good to go. Now we've got those packages set up, we can go ahead and proceed with the next set of steps. So let's start to integrate a Postgres database. Now that we know SQLite works, we can comment this out. Okay, and we can comment that out. Okay, now the Postgres database, we can head on over to Railway, and you can just say start project. Now don't worry, I will include all the links that I use in this video tutorial in the description below, so you can simply just go ahead and click on them. So start a new project. And here you'll see some options. So here we have provision a Postgres database and provision a MySQLite database, and we also have provision a MongoDB. So first of all, let's provision a Postgres database here. So we can click on that, and it's going to create the project for us. Now it's going to take a moment here, so let's just give it some time. And then we'll configure it. Okay, so as you can see here, it says this is a temporary project, okay, and it will be deleted in a day. You will need to claim it to make it yours. So you need to claim the project, and you're also going to have to verify your account either with a valid GitHub repo that's been active, I believe, for 60 days at least, or by a credit card. But don't worry, you will be reimbursed. I think they charge $1 just to verify it's a valid credit card, and then of course they will reimburse you. So there's two options that you have here if you want to claim your project. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you a quick way. So you can click here on your project here, Postgres, go to connect, scroll down, and under available variables here, you'll see the option for database URL, and you can copy this here. Okay, just get that copied. And what we need to do now is we need to make use of DJ database URL. So I'm going to say import DJ underscore database URL. And then the next thing that we need to do is we need to go ahead and set it up accordingly for our database. So that's the next thing we need to do. So we can see our structure. So we have databases here. So I'm going to say databases equals, and you want to open accordingly your curly brace. And we're just going to use the default line here. So I'm going to say default. Okay, and you want to add that in. And then all you want to do is you want to say DJ underscore database URL dot parse. And you're going to add in your quotes, and then you can paste in, okay, that Postgres URL accordingly here. That's all you need to do. Just make sure you've commented out this SQLite database, and to validate that we're connected to our Postgres database, all you need to do is run your server. The server will pick up that you have it set up. Let's give it a moment. There we go. So if you see that red text here, that's a good sign. That means it's recognizing a new database connection or a new database URL. You just need to migrate it. And this is a good sign to know that you've set it up with a valid database URL. Now, of course, I would recommend that you store this in an environment variable because this is sensitive data. But don't worry, I do have tutorials on that in my channel. I have quite a lot of tutorials on environment variables, so you can go ahead and check them out as well. Okay, so what we can do now, like before, let's just migrate everything. Migrate. So we're going to remigrate all of those default apps that we have here, but now to our Postgres database, we want to migrate all of this. So let's just be patient here. Okay, it does take some time. So we're just going to have to wait for this. Right, so almost there. And after we've set the Postgres database up, we're going to set up MySQL, but we're also going to log into the admin page here just to check that everything's working fine with our Postgres database first of all. Okay, so I'll pause the video, and once this is done, we can get straight to it. Oh, it's already done. There we go. Okay, so that's been migrated. Now we can test to see if it's working properly by creating a super user. So let's do this. Okay, now I'm going to say on Postgres, skip the email, enter in a password. Okay, now run the server, and let's head on to our admin page. Okay, and go to your admin page. Enter in your credentials, and let's see if it's logging us in. So this is a good test to see if we're connected. Okay, and there we go. Perfect. All right, so we're good to go. So we connected everything successfully. We connected to our Postgres database. Now let's say we want to connect to an SQLite database. So what we would need to do is just stop the server first of all. So you can press Control-C. And you want to comment out everything. Okay, and now let's do the MySQL database. All right, so what we need to do first of all is we can head on back to Railway here. Okay, and what you can do is you can go ahead and delete this Postgres database if you don't want to use it. So I'll show you how to do that for now. You can go to Settings, and you can just say delete servers from all environments. If you do want to keep it and use this Postgres database, claim your project, complete all the verification and steps that you need to do, and you'll be eligible for a couple hundred hours, I believe, for this database. Okay, so let's delete this. Let's type Postgres, confirm. Okay, there we go. That's been deleted. Let's head on back to Railway at the start, and let's start from the beginning. Start a new project, and now we're going to provision a MySQL database. But before we do that, we need to install this package, which is called MySQLite client. So this is going to allow us to make use of a MySQL database in Django. So you need to copy this, head on over to your terminal, paste that in, and install MySQL. Okay, there we go, it's been installed. Next, we need to head on over to Railway, say provision MySQL. Okay, same process again, it's just going to take some time. So let's just be a bit patient here. Okay. Right, and it's exactly the same process. We're even going to use the same method of connecting to it. We're going to use the URL pass here. Now you can see it says a temporary project again. Also, just keep in mind, claim your project if you want it to last for more than a day. But other than that, let me show you how to configure it. So you can click here on MySQL, go to connect, scroll down, and you'll see you'll have this URL here. Now, before we do this, let's set up our structure. So we can literally copy everything that we have here from Postgres and paste it in. You just want to remove the URL for Postgres here. Okay, and keep the same structure and put in now the database URL. So from here, MySQL SQL URL, copy that, paste that in, and simple. All you need to do now is say Python manage.py run server, and you'll see the red text coming up, which means you're connected to some sort of database. Okay, it's running, and we can see we're connected to something. So now let's migrate all of our database files to this MySQL database. So we can just say Python manage.py migrate. Okay, let's give it a moment. Okay, so this is going to take some time like before. So what I'm going to do is not waste your time here. I'm just going to pause the video, and once it's been migrated, we can move on to the next set of steps. All right, perfect. So those migrations were a success. Now let's create a super user. Okay, and set that up. Okay, all right. I'm just going to go ahead and say ono-MySQL. Skip that. Generate password. Okay, and let's run our server. Okay, it won't be too long. Great, there we go. Head on back to the admin page, and I'll say ono MySQL, and let's log in and wait for it. Okay, it should be anywhere. There we go. And we can even test this. So let's create a user here just for clarity. We can go to users, and let's just create a user here. So all of these will work nicely because they're all relational databases. If we had a NoSQLite database like MongoDB, then we may have run into an issue of sorts. So I'm just going to say ono user. Okay, let's just create a user. Save. Okay. Now the reason it is taking some time is because remember our application is local. Now if our application was in the web, so if it was hosted in production, then of course this would be a lot faster. So just keep that in mind. Right, so that user was created, so we can go to our users list and we can go ahead and see that, okay, this is working fine. This user's been added to a MySQLite database. The same thing will work perfectly fine for your Postgres and your default SQLite database. Right, so we can log out here and head on back to our application. There we go. All right, so I do want to mention again, if you want this database to last longer, please read this line here. So it is temporary and it's going to be deleted in a day. You can read more here if you want. If you want to claim the project, you can click on it, fill out some extra details. Okay, it should be very self-explanatory here if you want to keep your database. Now, you won't be able to keep it free forever. It just doesn't work that way. So you'll be able to keep your databases on the free tier for, like I said, a couple hundred hours, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but it's going to be certainly longer than a day. I know that for sure. All right, so that's it, guys. If you want to delete this database, you can go to settings, go to delete. Okay. There we go. It's been deleted. Let's give it a moment. There we go, and we can return back. All right, so that's how you can go ahead and set up 3 different databases in Django. So a SQLite database, which is the default database we get, Postgres database, and also a MySQLite database. Remember, of course, to store these values as environment variables for your own safety and your database's safety. But yeah, that's it, guys. That's how you can go ahead and integrate several different databases in a Django application. So as always, thank you for the support and see you next time.